What happens when a groom discovers his fiancée slept with her ex days before the ceremony, and her circle calls him jealous for asking about it? How can a calm man cancel a wedding, protect himself, and end the smear without shouting, using only timing, records, and a lawful reveal in a lobby? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Orin Prynne. I schedule bus routes for a living and keep my life steady with small habits. The wedding was days away when she said she was staying with her sister to calm nerves. I said to text when she arrived. She said the signal might be bad. I set 2 mugs on opposite counters and made the couch for myself so the night would remember a line. The stairwell breathed. The door latch clicked and held. I watched the clock until the hands stopped feeling heavy. On my phone, a rideshare drop pin sat near Harbor Suites, not near her sister's street. My Wi-Fi list showed HS Lobby as seen. I wrote only the time in my notes. I slid a sticky note that read "Bring forms" into a thin binder labeled Utilities, thicker than bills. I checked the clean folders on my laptop, Archive A and Archive B, and closed the lid when I heard footsteps in the hall. The desk drawer clicked as I turned the key. Under a folder marked Taxes, a single USB with today's date rested flat. In the morning, a calendar ping flashed Harbor 9:40 a.m. I dismissed it. The printer hummed and pushed out a blank page. My phone lit as private and went still. I woke early and kept the apartment quiet on purpose. The couch seam left a mark on my cheek. I folded the blanket and tucked the tag so it would not scratch me later. In the kitchen, I ran the tap until the water turned cold. I placed 2 mugs on opposite counters with their handles turned away from each other. I poured my cup and left hers empty. I wiped a ring of water and watched it fade. The silence helped. It felt like a straight line I could place between 2 points and trust. I checked my phone without brightening the screen. The rideshare app still showed a late-night drop near Harbor Suites. The Wi-Fi list still carried HHS Lobby as seen. I opened my notes and wrote only the minute. I set the phone face down. I opened the thin binder labeled Utilities and slipped a small sticky note under the clear cover that read "Bring forms." The binder sat thicker than bills. I lined its spine with the shelf edge until the line looked exact. The laptop on the table was closed. Inside it waited 2 clean folders, Archive A and Archive B. I did not open them. The desk drawer held a folder marked Taxes, and under it a single USB with today's date written on a sliver of tape. I touched the tape once to be sure it held. The stairwell breathed through the door and gave the hall a cool smell of metal. A latch clicked on some other unit, and then found the catch. She walked in with her phone in her hand and a smile that looked ready for a room. She said her sister fell asleep early and forgot to plug in a charger. I said I hoped they rested. She said I looked heavy. I said I liked simple mornings. She said I should stop measuring everything. I said I counted the things that kept us safe. She set her empty mug near the sink and said she had to run errands for the bridal party. I said I would be at the office. She said I should relax. I said I would be steady. On my way out, I passed the stairwell window and watched a van unload boxes for a florist across the street. The driver whistled a song that never found its last note. In the garage, I parked facing the street. I wrote a short line in my pocket notebook. 7:52. Car faces east. Footsteps in the concrete notch paused behind a pillar and then moved on. I noted the pause and closed the book. When I reached the bus stop, 2 teenagers argued about a rooftop story from last night. One said the ring was not on in the video. One said the ring was tucked in a pocket because that was cute. I looked at my reflection in the glass and kept my jaw loose. The bus arrived. I boarded. I took a seat and watched the city slide past like a belt that never stopped turning. The open-plan office smelled like cardboard and warm plastic. I checked the route board and found a duplicated stop on the North Loop. I fixed it and sent a short message that did not add extra air. I like messages to use the same number of words as they need and nothing more. 2 coworkers stood by the copier and tried to speak without letting the sound carry. I heard my name once and the word jealous once. I looked at the board again and traced a line with my finger from Dockside to Riverbend to confirm that the clock faces did not bite into each other. I printed a fresh sheet and watched the printer spit out a blank page before it gave me the route. The blank page curled on the tray like it wanted to be a question. I flattened it with my palm and set it aside. My manager, Mr. Adley, stepped out of his glass office and asked if I had a minute. I said yes. We went to the HR side room where the light is flat and the air holds still. He said a few tags had my fiancé's handle and also my full name in comment threads. He said he wanted to make sure I was okay. I said the floor would stay calm. He said he could adjust my hours if I needed. I said I would keep my schedule. We both heard the big printer whir and cough out another blank page. He said the machine did that sometimes. I said machines like to test their habits. He smiled, then asked me to tell him early if anything at home touched my shift. I said I would. Back at my desk, I opened a spreadsheet and typed initials and dates with space between them. No titles, no headers. I do not give names to things that are not ready to hold names. I took a screenshot of a rooftop clip where a hand waved a keycard sleeve that looked like HS and saved it into a clean folder on my phone behind 10 photos of a bus painted for a children's event. A CloudSync banner popped that read "File uploaded successfully" and then went away. I opened tabs for storage options, delivery tracking, and notary near me. I minimized them as soon as they opened. I set a one-time reminder called "Meeting," personal for 7:50 a.m., and dismissed it at once. The dismissal felt like closing a small door by placing one finger on the wood and letting it fall under its own weight. At break, I sat by the far window and drank water. A coworker asked if I was excited for the weekend. I said I liked schedules that ran on time. He said weddings never run on time. I said I liked trains more than weddings. He laughed. His laugh sounded like a chair slide. He left. I looked out at the street where a courier balanced 3 boxes and a coffee on one hip. Balance looks easy until it is not. I returned to my desk and finished the morning with quiet tasks that fit together like clean bricks. At lunch, I took my tray to a corner. My brother Dane texted a simple line. "Breathe, document. Don't chase." I replied with a thumb. I checked the routes one more time and caught a small misscan for the evening shift. I sent a correction with 2 sentences. No more. When I stood up to throw away my cup, the group chat on my phone flashed a preview. The line said "Bridal freedom with a string of stars." The image looked like a rooftop. I did not open it. I pressed the side button and turned the screen black again. After lunch, I walked to the parking garage to clear my head. The air down there always smells like oil and big rain that never fully dries. My shoes echoed. Another set of steps started, then paused. I stood still and let the echo tell me the distance. The steps moved away. A freight elevator bell chimed once, low and steady, and someone said a word that bounced off the concrete and lost its edges. My phone rang once from an unknown number. I let it ring and end. I wrote bell 117 and unknown 1 ring in the notebook and put it away. When the shift ended, I took the bus to the co-working lounge where she said the bridesmaids were preparing last-minute favors. The lounge sat on the 12th floor with glass on 3 sides and a rooftop bar 1 level up. The elevator doors opened to a lobby that smelled like lime and printer toner. A chalkboard near the reception desk had a note about a podcast meetup. I kept my hands in my coat and walked through to the bar where the wind did not respect hair or fabric. A long table stretched along the railing. Napkins tried to take flight and got caught on glass. People lifted their phones and made loops out of the same moment. Her sister Keira placed a fan of champagne flutes into a picture shape and told the group to look bold. Someone waved a keycard sleeve with the letters HS in silver. Someone shouted the word "sweet." Someone else shouted the word "view." I stood near the service door and let the wind push against my jacket until I felt the shape of my body again. Talia smiled for a boomerang with Keira. She said she had slept at her sister's. She said I should stop being a detective. The skyline behind her made a reflection on the service door. The reflection showed the name of Harbor Suites, reversed and faint. I did not step into the frame. I did not speak. I took a quiet photo of the reflection and slid the phone down without raising the brightness. I kept the cap on my water and let my fingers find the line where plastic meets air. A friend in a sequined jacket shouted for a toast to freedom before rings. Cups lifted and touched. The camera slid across faces and caught a man's sleeve at the far end, then jumped away like it had burned itself. Laughter covered the jump. Keira said she would fix the angle in the upload. The word "fix" stood in the air like a book someone had balanced on one finger. I left the edge of the table and walked down 1 flight to the smoking patio, where string lights drooped and the lemon cleaner never left the concrete. Jace waited near the far end with his hands in his coat. He said he wanted to clear the air. I said the air was already clear. He said Talia needed closure. I did not answer. In my pocket, the recorder drank the sound of the word "closure" and the drag of his shoe on the concrete. He said I broke things by being rigid. I said rails keep trains from falling. He smiled with one side of his mouth and looked over my shoulder. I looked at the door that led to the service stairs. I kept my hands open at my sides. I walked past him without turning. The door closed behind me and made a small seal sound. In the rear hallway, a staff cart rattled past with a loose wheel. I stepped aside and watched it disappear into a service lift. I pulled a small sticky note from my wallet and wrote "Bring forms." I folded it under the clear pocket again. In a quiet stretch, I put on my headphones and made a short call. I used general words about options and timing. The voice on the line answered with careful steps and no names. I said thank you and ended the call. The hallway light hummed. I could feel the hum through the crown of my head. I took the stairs down to the street and let the city air rinse the sounds of the rooftop out of my ears. On the metro, a pair of students watched a loop of the rooftop on their phone. One said the sweet key looked real. One said it was a prop because everything is content. The doors chimed and tried to close. My phone rang from an unknown number. I let it ring. The doors closed and the call tried again before the rubber met. I stared at the gray of my reflection and did not move my hand. The car lurched and steadied. I counted the stations and got off where the pavement holds fewer stories. At home, I placed my keys in the bowl and turned both mugs so their handles pointed out, like open hands that do not touch. I straightened the guest blanket on the couch and left the dent where my head had been last night. I opened the laptop long enough to confirm that Archive A and Archive B were still empty. I closed it when I heard the elevator stop on our floor. The desk drawer clicked as I turned the lock. She came in with Keira behind her. Keira's phone had a screen that glowed like a small stage. She said I was hunting for drama. I said I was taking care to keep the house level. She said it was one stupid night months ago and meant nothing. I said I measured what happened, not what someone wished it meant. Keira said grown men did not cry over timelines. I said grown men kept schedules so buses did not hit each other. She said this was not a depot. I said this was the place where we live. She rolled her eyes and set down a bag with ribbons and cards. She said the city was laughing at jealous men this week. I said the city was not invited to our kitchen. We ate late at the table. She said I should post a soft photo and keep my mouth shut until after the vows. I said I would not post a mask. She said I would regret the way I held a grudge. I said I would regret not holding a line. She said the hotel was just a goodbye. I said goodbyes do not need beds. The printer hummed and pushed a blank page into the tray. I laid it flat and pressed it with my palm. My phone lit with a small alarm that read, "Paper drop 11:20 a.m." I cleared it. I stacked the plates in neat lines and dried the counter with slow strokes. Before bed, I went to the wall planner and looked at the red circle around the weekend. Circles look safe until they become rings that hold smoke. I sat on the couch and adjusted the pillow. I told her I would sleep here again. She said I wanted to be seen. I said I wanted the house to feel the line. She said I was cold. I said I was exact. The stairwell door clicked far down the hall. Footsteps paused outside our place and moved on. My phone, face down on the table, buzzed once and stilled. Small, private hook. The door latch clicks in the hall. Footsteps pause. The printer spits a blank page, and a muted private call vibrates once and dies. Morning came with thin light and the sound of a delivery truck backing up on the street. I folded the blanket and tucked the tag. I set the 2 mugs on opposite counters and poured my cup. I left hers empty. She said her mother wanted a trial seating at the venue. I said I had work. She said anyone could click routes for a day. I said buses do not like guesses. She said a friend of Jace could help with lighting at the reception if we were not being childish. I said the reception was not a public theater. She said I was trying to ruin a weekend. I said I was trying to stop a mistake from dressing up as a promise. At the office, the floor hum felt thicker. The copier made extra noise and spit 2 blank pages before it behaved. Mr. Adley asked for a quick word and pointed at a comment thread where my name sat under a joke about jealous grooms. I told him the floor would stay calm. He nodded. He said the schedule looked like a tight braid. I said braids fall apart if you pull at them. He said he appreciated the work. I returned to my desk and added another line to the spreadsheet of initials and dates. No titles. I set a reminder meeting, personal 8:05 a.m., and dismissed it as soon as it was made. At lunch, I walked to the co-working building again. A chalk sign on the sidewalk announced bridal vendors upstairs. I went up 1 level and paused near the lobby of the rooftop bar without going in. Through the glass, I could see Keira arranging boxes. I could also see a man's dark jacket slip out a side door. I stood where I could be mistaken for a delivery person waiting for a signature. The receptionist asked if I needed help. I said I was confirming a timing block for later in the week. She said the room was busy with a private gathering tonight. I thanked her and left. I kept my eyes soft and my hands quiet. Back at work, I put on my headphones and stepped into a quiet corridor near the freight doors. I made a short call and asked general questions about time and place and process. The voice on the line spoke in neat steps. I listened more than I spoke. I said thank you and ended the call. I saved no names. I returned to my desk and the numbers obeyed me for a while. Numbers always obey when you treat them like rails. That evening at the family restaurant, the long table looked longer than yesterday, as if wood can stretch under strain. May said we should not discuss rumors at dinner. I said truth belongs in rooms where children sleep. Keira said I was boring the whole city. I said the city could eat something else. Cousins made jokes about sweet points and ring insurance. A server poured water and watched the stream as if water might tell her where to place it. I cut my food into small squares and did not lift them. Talia said I was killing the mood. I said moods die when lies hire them. May leaned in and said if I canceled anything, I would embarrass the family and cost people money. I said I would rather pay for silence than spend a life at a comedy show where I am the joke. She said I never learned to forgive. I said I learned to set rails. Talia said no one would remember an old night once the music started. I said I would remember it inside vows that used the word forever. Keira's phone pinged. The preview on the screen showed a boomerang of glasses clinking over a silver HS sleeve. She turned the screen down and said it was old footage cut as a joke. I said jokes that use rooms are not jokes. The kids at the next table laughed at something small. Laughter is a weather you cannot direct. I paid before dessert and stood up. We stepped into the hallway to leave. The elevator bell chimed once. Keira said if I wanted to be happy, I would smile and stop digging. I said I would handle things properly. I said it as if I were telling a bus to stay within its lane. She said I loved paper. I said paper keeps roofs from leaking when memories get wet. We walked to the door, and the world outside breathed a colder wind into our faces. I held the glass open until their hands were through. I let go and watched it seal the sound behind us. Public ripple, the manager's quick word, and group chat ping about an HS sleeve are followed by the hallway elevator bell chiming, as May warns me not to cancel, and I answer, level, that I will handle it properly. I stood at the edge of the rooftop where the wind kept lifting napkins and pinning them against the glass. The city spread under the rail like a map that did not want to be folded. I kept a bottle of water with the cap on. I liked the cap on because it told my hands to wait. A long table ran beside the railing. Keira arranged flutes into a fan and said the night needed angles and joy. Phones rose in a slow wave. A stack of keycard sleeves sat near a candle. The silver letters HS flashed when the wick flared. A hand reached into frame and wagged a sleeve like a ticket. Someone shouted the word sweet. Someone added the word view. Laughter blew across the glass and tried to carry me with it. I let the wind push at my jacket until I felt where my shoulders ended. Talia took a boomerang with her sister. She said she had slept at Keira's. She said I should stop running numbers on fun. I said I liked rails. She laughed without humor and turned back to the group. The service door behind me held a dull reflection of the skyline. In the reflection, the hotel name sat reversed and pale. I did not step closer. I lifted my phone low, caught the reflection once, and slid the device down without waking the brightness. The picture felt like a leaf pressed between pages. I did not label it. I let the time mark it for me. A friend in a sequined jacket raised a glass and called for a toast to freedom before rings. Cups lifted and clicked. The camera moved across faces and snagged for a breath on a man's sleeve at the far end. The clip jumped away as if the lens had burned a finger. Keira said she would fix the angle in the upload. The word fix hung over the table like a wire that people stepped over without seeing it. I stepped back into the shadow of the service door and counted the seconds between chant and echo. The wind made the count short. I slipped down one level to the smoking patio where the lemon cleaner never left the floor. The string lights draped as if they were tired of holding up the room. Jace leaned on the wall with his hands in his coat. He said he wanted to clear the air. I said the air was clear. He said Talia needed closure and that I would understand if I did not let rules eat my heart. I said rules kept trains from meeting nose to nose on a curve. He smiled with one side of his mouth and looked over my shoulder at the stairwell door. I kept my body still and my hands open like a person who has nothing to trade. In my pocket, the recorder made a faint beep and then drank the wind, the shoes, the word closure, and the hiss of a cigarette that was not mine. I ended the file and left it numbered like any other small thing that lives in a row. Back upstairs, the chant for a bigger toast returned like a tide. A camera flash struck the keycard sleeve and left a white aftermark in the air. I blinked it away. I walked behind the bar and asked the bartender for water. He slid a glass toward me and said the rooftop was a mess of stories tonight. I said rooftops love stories more than floors did. He said floors won every fall. I nodded and looked toward the rail where Keira held her phone at chin height to keep lenses from catching the wrong edge. She said the light was perfect and told the group to laugh without teeth. Laughter tried to be a ribbon. It frayed at the top where wind cuts everything. I took the service stairs to the 12th floor corridor and stopped near the lobby where the co-working sign lists podcasts and pitches. A chalk arrow pointed to a bridal vendor mixer. 2 people in dark jackets came out of the side door and glanced at me as if I were a sign that had moved. I kept my face calm and my hands at my sides. I looked at the wall clock for too long and then left. In the elevator, I watched my reflection hold still in the metal. The car opened to street level, and the building exhaled me into a line of ride shares and the smell of hot brakes. On the metro, a pair of students scrolled the rooftop loop. One said it was a pre-wedding pass. One said passes were for parking. The train doors chimed and tried to close. And my phone rang from an unknown number. I let it ring once and go quiet. The doors closed. The call returned before the rubber kissed. I watched the gray of my reflection sit on the pane and do nothing. The car pushed through a tunnel like a thought with its eyes shut. I got off 2 stops early and walked the rest of the way so the wind could comb the noise out of my head. At home, I placed my keys in the bowl and set 2 mugs on opposite counters. I kept their handles pointing out. I straightened the guest blanket on the couch and left the dent where my head had been. I opened the laptop and checked that Archive A and Archive B were still empty and clean. I closed the lid when I heard the elevator stop on our floor. The desk drawer clicked as I turned the lock. The tape on the small USB held steady under the folder marked taxes. The apartment door opened. Talia came in with Keira and 2 bags of ribbon and cards. Keira set her phone on the table like a small lamp. Talia said I was draining the room. I said the room was fine. She said I was counting instead of loving. I said I was keeping us from falling off a curve. Keira said the city had decided that jealous grooms were a meme this week. I said the city was not invited to our kitchen. She rolled her eyes and asked if I planned to sleep on the couch again. I said yes. She said I wanted gold stars for suffering. I said I wanted the house to feel the line. Keira called my plan performative. I said my plan was measurable. I made rice and eggs and stirred until the pot tapped the stove in small knocks that felt like a clock. We ate with plates low and elbows in. Talia said I should post a soft photo of our hands and let the story pass over us. I said I would not hold a mask for anyone else's camera. She said I would regret making a mountain from an old bump. I said a bump under a ring still rises. Keira said everyone makes one last mistake before vows. I said vows mean nothing when the mouth hides a night. The printer hummed in the hall and pushed a blank page into the tray. I pressed it flat with my palm. A small phone alarm on the table flashed paper drop 11:20 a.m. I cleared it and stacked the dishes. At the wall planner, the red circle around the weekend looked like a target laid on its side. I sat on the couch and said I would sleep here again. Talia said I wanted witnesses for my pain. I said I wanted proof for my own memory. She said I was cold. I said I was exact. Down the hall, a door latch clicked and footsteps paused outside our place, then moved away. My phone, face down on the table, buzzed once and stilled. I wrote the time in my pocket notebook and slid the book under the couch cushion. Crowd heat meets private signal. A camera flash over the keycard sleeve follows me to the unknown caller ringing as train doors chime. Then the door latch outside our place clicks and the call dies into quiet. Morning arrived with the smell of rain that had not fallen yet. I folded the blanket and lined its edge with the couch seam. I set the 2 mugs on opposite counters. I poured my cup and let hers stand empty. Talia said her mother wanted a final seating at the venue and a short talk about no-drama posting rules. I said I had a full board and would be late to any talk. She said I could delegate. I said buses did not like strangers. She said I made life heavy. I said I prevented crashes. She set her phone down with the screen up and walked to the bedroom. The screen showed a group ping. I turned the screen face down and left it there. I fixed a route conflict between the Harbor Loop and the Hillside Run. The printer spit a blank page before it printed the schedule that worked. I flattened the curl with my palm. Mr. Adley asked if I could spare a minute. I said yes. In the HR room, he asked if I needed relief from floor chatter. I said I could do my work with noise and without. He said he did not want stray comments to distract the board. I said the board was clean. We listened to the big machine cough and then go quiet. He nodded at the hush and went back to his office. I opened a spreadsheet and added 2 lines of initials and dates. I did not add column names. I opened delivery tracking and minimized it. I opened notary near me and minimized it. I set meeting, personal for 9:05 a.m. and dismissed it at once. The small click from the phone felt like putting a lid back on a jar. At lunch, I met Dane at a bench beside the hospital cafeteria because that light does not care about mood. He asked if I wanted him to stand somewhere. I said I would let him know. He tapped the table twice with 2 fingers the way he did before exams. He said I should breathe and keep the rail straight. I said I was breathing. He said he believed me. We watched a copier spit a page and hang for a second before dropping. I wrote the time on a napkin and slid it into my pocket. We both watched the napkin disappear as if it were going to do work of its own. The family dinner sat in a restaurant that pretended to be quiet with soft bulbs and heavy chairs. The long table stretched enough to make people think words could not travel. They traveled anyway. May said we should not bring rumors to food. I said food would not spoil from truth. Keira said I loved being the main character. I said I loved timetables. Talia said this was turning small. I said small things crush when you stack them. A cousin made a joke about sweet points. Another cousin laughed like a bottle cap flicked across tile. The server poured water and watched how the stream hit the glass, like the water might guide her to the right place for the cup. May leaned toward me and said I would embarrass the family if I made a public scene. I said the public scene had already happened in small loops on many screens. She said I should smile for the sake of the elders. I said I would not smile around a tripwire. Keira said she would post a correction if I gave her the right tone. I said truth did not need a handler. Talia said everyone cleans a past before a promise, and that mine was not perfect either. I said I kept my promises in the same room as my body. She said I was cruel. I said I was careful. The room did not like careful. It likes warm and vague. Warm and vague keeps chairs full. An aunt asked about seating and money. May said deposits were not rubber. I said money was not a leash. Keira asked if I planned to walk away from an entire plan because I felt bruised. I said I planned to walk away from a lie because I felt alive. Talia said I was ending joy for a detail. I said details build bridges and also collapse them. A nephew asked if the cake would still have the birds. May shushed him and told him to draw. He drew a box with a ribbon and a line through it. He said the box would stay closed until people were kind. I stood and paid before dessert. May told me to come outside so we would not raise voices between walls. I said I was not raising my voice. We went into the hallway. The elevator bell chimed once and then again because someone held the doors. May said I would ruin the old people's hearts if I canceled. I said I would handle this properly. I said it plain and low, like telling a bus to stay in its lane on a narrow road. Keira lifted her phone half an inch and then lowered it when the host looked at her hand. Talia stared at my face and asked if I cared about anything beyond being right. I said I cared about not stepping into a promise that had already been cut. May said I was dramatic. I said I was exact. Keira said my exactness was a weapon. I said my exactness was a seatbelt. We stepped outside. The air had a cold bite to it, and the river smell climbed the street. May said we would go to the venue tomorrow and sit in the chairs to feel peace. I said I would be at work. She said elders would be there. I said I would not. Talia said I could at least keep the noise off the internet. I said I was not the one feeding the clips. Keira told me to stop speaking like a report. I said I was done speaking for tonight. The wind shifted and lifted hair and napkins and plans that were not tied down. Back at our place, I placed my keys in the bowl and turned the mugs so their handles pointed out again. I straightened the guest blanket on the couch. I opened the laptop and made sure Archive A and Archive B were still empty. I closed the lid when I heard shoes in the hall. The desk drawer clicked as I turned the lock. Talia said I should come to bed and stop acting like a bailiff. I said I was acting like a person who did not want to wake up in a story that was not his. She said I would hate being alone. I said I would hate being a prop. The printer hummed and pushed a blank page into the tray. I pressed it flat. My phone lit with a small banner that read Delivery Tracking. Ready. I cleared it and set the phone face down. I lay on the couch and listened to the stairwell breathe. A door latch clicked. Footsteps paused outside our place and then moved on. Air passed under the main door and made a thin ribbon sound. I kept my hands folded and my eyes open until they found the ceiling seam. I told myself that calm was my job. I let the quiet hold my jaw in place. Moral and social pressure crest together. May's ultimatum in the hallway meets a fresh group chat ping, and the elevator bell chimes while I answer, level, that I will handle it properly, then set the phone face down as the stairwell footsteps pause and pass. Morning came with flat light and a truck beeping somewhere down on the street. I folded the couch blanket and tucked the tag. In the kitchen, I placed 2 mugs on opposite counters, handles pointed away from each other like open hands that refused to meet. I poured my cup and left hers empty. The thin binder labeled Utilities sat thicker than bills. I slid a new sticky note behind the clear cover that read Seating. Deposits. Quiet. I lined the spine with the shelf edge until the line felt exact. A calendar ping on my phone flashed Harbor 9:40 a.m. I dismissed it without opening anything and watched the screen go dark. The printer in the hall hummed and spit a blank page that curled like a small question. I pressed it flat with my palm, then placed it under the others. She came out of the bedroom and said her mother had the venue open for a last check. I said my board at work needed me. She asked if I planned to cancel the whole thing because I could not forgive. I said I planned to keep people safe from a promise that had already been bent. She said I loved paper more than love. I said paper kept roofs from leaking when words got wet. She said I was cruel. I said I was careful. Her mouth made a shape that looked like a door trying to hold back wind. At the office, I fixed a route where the harbor lope nipped the hillside run by 3 minutes. I took 1 minute from the bridge approach and gave 2 to the return so the lines would not bite. Mr. Adley asked if I had a quick word. I said yes. In the HR room, he asked if the floor needed extra eyes, because chatter was loud, and people like stories more than details. I said I could work with chatter or without. He said I kept a steady braid, and he appreciated it. I nodded, and we both listened to the copy machine cough before it fed a blank page. He said he would walk the floor to peel off watchers if they formed. I said the board was clean. He left. I stood there a second longer and counted to 5 so my chest would remember the shape of calm. Back at my desk, I opened a spreadsheet and added 2 new rows of initials and dates. No headers, no titles. I opened tabs for notary near me, storage options, and delivery tracking. I minimized them before the pages finished drawing their shapes. I set a one-time reminder named Meeting, personal 9:05 a.m., and dismissed it as soon as it sang. The small click in my hand felt like putting a lid on a jar. A message preview slid across the lock screen and disappeared because my settings hid content. The title read, Follow-Up. I pressed the side button and turned the screen off again. At lunch, I walked to the hospital cafeteria because the light is plain and nobody cares what you bring there. My brother Dane sat down with a coffee that smelled like cardboard. He said cardboard saves boxes. I agreed. He asked if I wanted him to stand somewhere later. I said I would need him near a door. He said he could stand and not speak. I said that helped. A small copier by the cashier spit a page and let it hang a second before it fell. I wrote the time on a napkin and slid it into my pocket. He watched the movement and nodded the way he does at the end of a plan that respects gravity. On the walk back, I put on headphones and stood near the freight hall, where the air feels like a quiet machine. I made a short call and asked general questions about time and place. The voice answered with careful steps and no names. I asked what counted as enough for a public correction. The voice listed conditions and said the word witness. I said lobby. The voice said lobby would do. I thanked the voice and ended the call. I saved no number. I let the hallway hum return to my ears before I stepped back into the open floor and the routine of scanning small truths into neat lines. After work, I stopped by the community center to sign an attendance sheet for next week's meeting because I like rooms to remember I show up. The clipboard had one big word at the top, statement. I took a cropped photo of the word and hid it behind 10 pictures of buses painted for a children's fair. The shredder in the side office hummed while someone fed it. The sound moved through my teeth like a low wire and then faded. Outside, the evening had the smell of rain that could not commit. I walked home with my jaw loose and my hands open. She was at the table with her mother and sister when I came in. May said we should not embarrass elders with abrupt changes. Keira said narratives bend if you put the right weight on them. I said truth does not care about stage directions. She said I was asking the city to pick sides. I said I had never asked the city to enter our kitchen. May said deposits were not rubber and chairs were coming tomorrow. I said chairs could go back to the warehouse. She said I would humiliate her daughter. I said the daughter had handled that herself before the vows. Talia said she made one mistake before the ring and the world should forgive. I said the world could forgive or not, but my mouth could not speak forever over a night I did not live in. May asked if I would at least delay and smile. I said I would handle it properly. I said it quiet and level, like telling a bus to keep to its lane on a narrow road. Keira stood and asked if I would try to win public sympathy by making a scene. I said I would not make a scene. She asked what I would make. I said I would make order. She rolled her eyes and told Talia to stop feeding me because I grew stronger when starved of joy. I poured water. I placed the glass on a coaster and watched the ring it made. I wiped the ring and watched it fade. I told Talia she could call me about logistics and safety and anything that kept elders from stress. I said everything else should wait. She called me a clerk. I let the word sit on the table like a fork. The printer hummed and pushed a blank page into the tray. I pressed it flat and felt the warm toner like a reminder about rails. I tucked the couch blanket in place. I checked that the small USB still lay taped under the taxes folder. I locked the drawer. I set my phone face down. A banner flashed and vanished. Delivery tracking, ready for handoff. I cleared it without opening. The stairwell door clicked. Footsteps paused outside our place, then passed. I lay on the couch and matched my breath to the ceiling seam. Calm threat formalized. I say I will handle it properly while the printer spools a blank page. My phone lights private, and a delivery tracking banner marks ready for handoff as footsteps pause in the hall and move on. The office tower lobby felt colder than the street, even though the doors kept breathing people in and out. The floor held a shine that looked like water deciding to be glass. A receptionist spoke in a low voice to a guest about a parcel. A security camera blinked red and steadied. The elevator bell chimed once. Dane stood near the revolving door the way we agreed, still, hands in his coat, eyes not on me, but in a steady place beyond me. Keira entered with a phone half raised until the guard's glance lifted the phone back down. She stood near a planter and watched the reflections instead of the people. Jace hovered near the revolving door with both hands in his coat pockets, and his mouth half formed like he had a line and could not find the cue. May came in with a small purse and a mouth that had practiced mercy until mercy became a mask. Talia stepped out from the elevator bank with a helper from the vendor floor. She saw me and said the lobby was wrong. I said the lobby was right. She said this was a private matter. I said it had been made public by loops and captions, and I wanted clarity where cameras kept time. She said I was making her the villain. I said I was letting the light do the work. She said I would regret this. I said my job was to keep trains from meeting nose to nose on curves, and I would do the same with people. She said I was canceling joy. I said I was canceling a ceremony I could not enter honestly. She told me to lower my voice. I told her my voice was already low. A person stepped forward, said Talia's full name, and waited. She confirmed. The packet changed hands under the camera and in the bright wash of lobby light. The papers made a soft sound like a cuff sliding across a table. The receptionist looked down and then up. The guard by the door shifted his stance and then held still. Keira lifted her phone a half-inch and let it sink when the guard looked again. Jace took one step back until his heel met the bronze base of a column. May asked if we could move to a corner. I said the lobby was fine. She asked if I could at least spare elders from seeing a scene. I said I was not making a scene. The lobby remained a lobby. I spoke in a level voice that did not try to win. I said the ceremony was canceled. I said this packet contained written notices to the venue and vendors and would be followed by the correct communications. I said public posts that named me or used my likeness in false ways needed to come down, and I had asked for that in writing. I said I would answer messages about logistics, safety, and elder care. I said everything else would wait for the process the paper described. I said this was not revenge. I said this was order. I said I wanted quiet. My hands stayed where people could see them. Talia looked from the top page to my face and back again. She said I was ending us because of one night. I said I was ending a show because it had replaced a promise. She said the city would laugh at me. I said the city had done that already, and the city did not set my table. Keira said I was trying to control the narrative. I said I was done feeding it. May whispered that hearts would break. I said hearts had time to heal when rooms stopped being stages. The security lens blinked once and steadied. The elevator bell chimed again from behind her and went quiet. A child in the lobby asked a parent if the bell meant the doors would open. The parent said yes, and the parent was right. The person who had made the handoff wrote a small note on a pad and stepped away with quiet shoes. The receptionist thanked a guest and looked back at us. The revolving door breathed a couple in and a courier out. My phone lit with a banner that read, "Delivery tracking, complete." It glowed and then faded. I thanked the staff for their space. I told Talia again that I would respond fast to logistics and elder care. I told Keira that any image using me without permission in a false story needed to be removed. I told May she could call me about returns and rides for the old ones, and I would say yes. I did not speak to Jace. He had no place in my sentences. Talia asked if this was final. I said this was the step I could take without lying. She asked if I would speak to her alone. I said I would respond about logistics only. She said I had turned into a clerk. I said a clerk saved lives by keeping rails straight. The words hung in the air like small tools that could build or cut. The lobby kept its cold, clean light. I did not raise my voice. I did not move closer. I kept my face plain because plain tells the truth faster than fire. The elevator bell sounded once more, clean and small, like a period at the end of a sentence. The packet stayed in her hands. The result stood where it needed to stand. I turned my face toward the doors without looking back. Dane shifted his weight and opened the way. The doors breathed the city into us and took us out. Cut to black. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching,